The streak is over. The Orioles have won a baseball game. It took them 11 innings to do it, but they have won a baseball game. We'll recap the 8-4 win over the Brewers coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we're going to recap an Orioles win for a change. For the first time in a while, it's been about a week and a half since I got to talk about an Orioles win. They were on an 8-game losing streak, but that is no longer. An 8-4 win over the Milwaukee Brewers in extra innings on Wednesday afternoon. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from that one, including another great start from Tomoyuki Sugano, a huge day for Raone Laureano, and probably the biggest swing of the year so far for Adley Rutschman. Then we'll talk about some injury updates for the Orioles. Andrew Kitridge, we saw him make his Orioles debut on Wednesday off the IL. He looked pretty good. We'll chat about what his role could be moving forward. And we finally got a positive update on Colton Cowser as he inches closer to returning to the lineup. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast. Before we get there, though, just did want to thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. We're free and available on all podcast listening platforms, whether you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you could subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating and a review, it really, really helps us out. And of course, we're on YouTube as well. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. And again, we know this season isn't going well, even with this episode being able to recap a W. It was 8 losses before that. I talked about it on yesterday's episode. It just does not seem like this team has enough time. They've dug too big of a hole to turn around and get to the playoffs. That doesn't mean there's not going to be stuff to talk about here 5 days a week on the show. So thank you so much for sticking with me. There's going to continue to be great content on this show, so make sure you are subscribed and sticking around. And I really think the everydayers out there, the people who are with us, or the people who are just tuning in, right, is still going to be some good Orioles stuff for you, even if this season is not going the way we thought. And if you do have thoughts and questions, opinions about the Orioles, want to talk ball, you can always email me, lockedOnOrioles@gmail.com. So let's start with an Orioles win. Very excited to talk about winning baseball. The O's snapped an 8-game losing streak. They were swept by the Twins. They were swept by the Nats. They had lost the first 2 in Milwaukee against the Brewers, were in danger of getting swept again, and then they didn't. Final score from Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Wednesday afternoon is the Orioles 8 and the Milwaukee Brewers 4. It did take 11 innings, but the Orioles get the win. They avoid the sweep, and they leave Milwaukee with a W and with a 1-game winning streak instead of what could have been a 9-game losing streak. And even though it was a win, it's been the Orioles digging themselves a hole. They are still just at 16-32 through 48 games this season. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from the Orioles victory over the Brewers. And the first thing you need to know is Tomoyuki Sugano just keeps being good. He keeps going out there and pitching well. I mean, even in that last start when he gave up 4 runs and pitched into the 7th, he was fine. But he goes right back out there and gives the O's a quality start. 6 innings of 2-run ball for Sugano on 5 hits, 3 strikeouts, a walk, and a home run allowed on 88 pitches. Just 5 hard hit balls by Brewers hitters against him. He's got a 3.07 ERA. He's kind of been the full savior of this Orioles rotation so far this year. I mean, you think this rotation is a disaster now. Imagine they didn't have Sugano in this spot right now, giving him the starts that he does. And as usual, the splitter was his number 1 pitch. He didn't get a lot of swing and miss. That was why he only ended up with 3 strikeouts in 6 innings. But what he did do is locate all of his pitches. He found the corners most of the time. He threw some more sweepers than we generally see. I think there were some tough righties that he wanted to throw those against in the Brewers lineup, and he really attacked them with the sweeper. I thought the cutter looked good most of the time. He threw one really bad cutter that didn't cut, stayed in the middle of the plate, and Rhys Hoskins hit it out for a solo homer to give the Brewers a 2-1 lead at the time in the bottom of the 6th inning. But the only other run that Sugano allowed was just a weird play in the 5th. There's a runner on second with 1 out, and a little dribbler gets hit up the first base line. Sugano gets to it, fields it, makes a good throw to first to get the second out. And in most situations, you would think, okay, that runner advanced from second to third. He's there with 2 down. But Caleb Durbin just never stopped running, and the Orioles never really gave him a look. I don't really think there was much Sugano could do because Bryce Terang, I believe, was the hitter. He's a left-handed hitter. He's got good speed. He's getting up the line. Sugano had to get to that ball and immediately fire it to first to have a chance to get the out at first base. And he did that, and he got the out. But he really didn't have time to turn around and fake the runner back to third. So if he was going to turn and throw home, he had to be ready to turn and immediately throw and know he had no chance at first. He was banking on everything being the out at the plate. And of course, in that spot, if you don't get the out at the plate, well, then you've got a run scored. You have a runner on first. You still have 1 out. O'Hearn's throw home wasn't in time. Durbin scored on that wild play to tie the game at 1 in the 5th inning. And then he gives up a solo home run, which again, with the stuff that he has, it's going to happen certainly in almost every start. But when he's not walking guys, only 1 walk, he's on the corners. Hey, a home run's going to be a solo shot. It's not really going to hurt you. And it was just another good start from Sugano. Second thing you need to know in this one is that Ryan O'Hearn had a huge day for the Orioles. He goes 4 for 6 with a double, 3 singles, and 2 RBIs. He is now up to a 306 average and a 903 OPS on the season. He is the only Orioles hitter with an on-base plus slugging of over 900 at this point this year. It's just been an incredible contract year for O'Hearn. Just like Mullins playing well in his contract year, O'Hearn is set to be a free agent after 2025, and he has been, you can't really argue it with Mullins kind of slowing down in May. Ryan O'Hearn has been consistently the Orioles' best hitter so far this season as we stand here on May 22nd. He's been a good hitter for the last 3 years. I'm not sure you would have confidently said that was going to happen, but for O'Hearn, he picks up his second 4+ hit game. He had a 5 for 5 game back on September 18th of 2023 in Houston when he had 4 singles and a double in an Orioles win. But this is already his 7th multi-hit game in May. He's hitting well over 300 in the month of May. And, he came through early in the game, came up with first and third and no outs in the top of the 4th in a 0-0 game. He dunks in an RBI single to put the Orioles up 1-0, a big hit with a runner in scoring position, something the Orioles have not had a lot of this year. Then he had the big hit in the 2-run rally in the 8th when the Orioles were trailing 2-1, scored twice to take the lead in the top of the 8th inning. He was up there with a runner at first and 1 out, ripped a double the other way into the left field corner, made it second and third with 1 away, and gave the Orioles a chance to bring home some runs in that inning. And his third hit of the day was a single off a lefty. He's been much better in the chances he's been given against left-handed pitching this year. He's getting more and more chances after the Orioles mostly have hid him against left-handers and made him a big side platoon batter in his first 2 years in Baltimore just because of the injuries and the ineffectiveness by the Orioles offense. They're saying, hey, O'Hearn's our best hitter. We're going to throw him out there against left-handers as well. We're not going to pinch hit for him as much. And he's been looking more and more comfortable in those spots. And then, of course, there was the hit that we thought was going to be the biggest one. He comes out with a runner on third and 1 out, 3-3 game in the top of the 10th, and delivers an RBI single into left field to put the Orioles up 4-3. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't the game-winning hit. The Brewers got a run in the bottom of the 10th to send the game to the 11th, but he just kept converting in the big spots, and that's something that he has done this year, and we have certainly continued to talk about how bad the Orioles have been as a team with runners in scoring position and how just nobody is really coming through in these spots at all. And Cedric Mullins is the guy we've highlighted. He's racking up the RBIs because he's hitting 306 with a 194 WRC plus with runners in scoring position. He has been absolutely great in those spots, but don't sleep on Ryan O'Hearn. He's not hitting for a super high average, but he does have a 113 WRC plus in those spots as well, and has been clearly the Orioles' number 2 hitter in those big spots. Third thing you need to know in this one is that Heston Kjerstad had his biggest hit of the year in this game. And I thought this Kjerstad hit was going to be the game winner. After O'Hearn doubles in the 8th to put runners on second and third with 1 out, Cedric Mullins delivers a sac fly to tie the game at 2. And then Emmanuel Rivera draws a 3-2 walk. So Kjerstad comes up 2-2 game, first and second, 2 outs in the top of the 8th inning, facing a tough reliever. Kjerstad goes behind 1-2. It looks like it's going to be another one of his classic strikeouts or rollovers to the right side. Oh, no. He lines a base hit the other way into left field. O'Hearn comes in to score on the play. It's an RBI single that puts the Orioles up 3-2. Now, he didn't come through in a big spot with the runners on the corners and 2 outs in the 10th when the Orioles did have a chance to add to this lead. But Heston Kjerstad coming in, 194 average, 3% walk rate, 26% strikeout rate with runners in scoring position, a 35 WRC plus. He's just been horrible in those spots. It has not been a good season for Kjerstad, who is finally getting the runway to play. It's finally happening for him, and he really has not taken advantage at all. And he was a couple of 0 for 4s in his last couple of starts. I mean, he's trying to find some sort of groove, and hopefully this swing can get him in there. I mean, you have O'Neill on the injury list. You have Cowser still out. Raone Laureano is going to be out for a few more days. Kjerstad's going to be in there still every single day. They got to get him hot. It hasn't happened this year, and they got to get him going. Fourth thing you need to know from this one is that Felix Bautista, who came on for the save chance with the Orioles leading 3-2 in the bottom of the 9th inning, pitched in back-to-back games for the first time all year. Now, somewhat surprisingly, in the Orioles' 5-2 loss on Tuesday night, Bautista came in the 8th inning with the Orioles trailing. The O's were down 3-2 heading into the bottom of the 8th. Felix had not pitched since he gave up a run in the Orioles' loss on Friday night. And Tony Mansolino goes to Bautista for the first time outside of the 9th inning this year. And of course, Bautista coming off of Tommy John surgery, missed all of 2024. And Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde at the beginning of the year made it very clear, like, hey, for the first couple months of the year, he's not going to pitch back-to-back games. He's not going to pitch, any stints that are more than 1 inning at a time. We're going to slow play him along to make sure that, when we need him really down the stretch, and that's what they hoped they would, and we kind of thought they would, he will be fresh and ready to go. We don't want to overuse him as soon as he gets back from Tommy John. And I was on board with that plan, like totally down for it to save his arm a bit. And that's what they did, right? He had only pitched 13 times in the Orioles' first 46 games heading into that appearance he made on Tuesday night. Now, of course, it didn't go well on Tuesday. He had no command. He gave up 2 runs. He threw 26 pitches, which tied his season high for number of pitches in any outing. Only got 2 outs. Cianel Perez had to kind of clean up the mess he made in the 8th inning. So you thought, even if, we're pretty close to the 2-month point of the season, like sometime next week, it'll be 2 months since the season started. So you're thinking, hey, maybe the Orioles are starting to consider using him on back-to-backs. But after a game where he throws a season-high 26 pitches and does not look good, that wouldn't have been the time I thought the Orioles would want to throw him out there for a back-to-back. But a 1-run save situation presented itself with the Orioles up 3-2 heading into the bottom of the 9th, and they went back to Bautista. And unfortunately, maybe it was the wrong move because he once again did not look good. He walked 2 batters. He had a chance to get out of it. First and second, 2 outs. He had a 1-2 count on a fairly light-hitting player in Caleb Durbin, who certainly made himself known, though, in Wednesday's game, trying everything to get the Brewers a win in this one. And he doesn't go to the fastball. He doesn't go to the splitter. He goes again to the slider, hangs it over the zone. Durbin dumps an RBI single into right field to tie the game at 3. Bautista does get the next out to keep the game going and send it to extra innings, but it's now 4 consecutive outings for Bautista when he's allowed at least 1 earned run after he had a really good run in the middle part of the season there. But Wednesday was his first blown save of the year. He had been perfect up until then, but hitting a little bit of a rough patch here. And it's going to happen to guys coming off Tommy John, but last time he threw back-to-backs was the night he tore his UCL. That game against the Rockies on August 25th of 2023, he had also pitched the night before. Last time he blew a save, you got to go back to August 8th of 2023 when the Orioles had a 6-3 lead in the 9th, and he let some runners on, and then he gave up a go-ahead grand slam to Kyle Tucker of the Astros at the time. If you want to go back to the last time he blew a 1-run save, June 24th, 2023. It's been almost 2 years since he blew a 1-run save. He gave up a 2-out solo homer to Mike Ford of the Mariners to tie that game in the top of the 9th inning. And that was the game when Ryan McKenna hit a 2-run walk-off homer in the bottom of the 10th for the O's to beat Seattle back in June of 2023. So it's been a while since Felix has seen stuff like this. And again, he's going to more sliders than we're used to, less of the fastball, less of the splitter. And we'll see. I mean, the velo keeps popping up. He was over 99. He touched 99.2 miles an hour on Wednesday. So he's getting closer and closer to that old Felix velo of sitting just shy of 100 miles an hour. But a little bit of a rough patch in terms of what's going on. So the game goes to extras. I mentioned the O's get a run, and then the Brewers get a run off of Brian Baker in the bottom of the 10th. So they go to the 11th. And the fifth and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 8-4 win over the Brewers in 11 innings on Wednesday that snapped their 8-game losing streak is that Adley Rutschman came up with the clutch swing late. I don't think you can deny biggest swing of the season so far from Rutschman. And it really does seem like as the Orioles go, Adley goes. And John Mioli had a good piece about that in the Baltimore Banner on Wednesday that dropped like right around when Adley was hitting the home run, which was a little bit funny for John, who's kind of been going through it with his writing and the way he thinks about the Orioles this year that he's been very open about. Another good Orioles podcast, a Banner Baseball Show with Paul and John Mioli. But also, Wednesday was the 3-year anniversary of Adley making his major league debut. That was May 21st, 2022 in Baltimore against the Rays when the Orioles lost, but he had a triple and it was kind of off and running for the Orioles being a winning baseball team from there. And right now, things are going very much in the wrong direction, but he delivered the crushing blow, a 3-run homer off of Brewers reliever Tyler Alexander. After Jackson Holliday had already come up with a big hit, an RBI single to put the O's up 5-4, the Adley Rutschman 3-run shot made it 8-4, and that, even with the zombie runner on in the bottom of the 11th, kind of put things away as Sir Anthony Dominguez came on and put up a 0 and closed out the Oriole victory to end the losing streak. But it was a huge swing for Adley Rutschman. We know the struggles that he's been going through this year. We know it's been a lot of bad batted ball luck, and his underlying data looks so much better than what the surface stats say. But the surface stats at the end of the day are most important for wins and losses, because those are the things that show, are you getting hits? Are you coming through for your team? Adley's home run on Wednesday afternoon, his first home run since April 20th. It had been over a month since Adley had hit the ball out of the ballpark. It has not been a good time for him. And that is his 5th home run of the year, but it is his first from the right side of the plate. The first one he has hit off a left-handed pitcher. It's been one of the other Orioles' big issues, their struggles against lefties. Adley, who historically has been better from the right side of the plate, better against left-handed pitchers as a switch hitter, that has not been the case in 2025. Even when he struggled last year, he still hit lefties well. Then that went away early this season. So it's awesome to see him not just hit a homer, but hit it off a lefty. I mean, last year, even with the struggles, he slugged .512 against lefties. He was slugging .292 against lefties entering Wednesday's game. So that was certainly a great thing to see. I mean, he crushed the ball 110 off the bat. And, he's now hitting .297 in his last 7 games. So the swing's starting to come around a little bit. And the 3 RBIs he had on that one swing in the 11th inning on Wednesday eclipsed his entire RBI total from the whole month of May. He had 2 ribbies in all of May coming in, and then he hits a 3-run homer. And he also had a double earlier in the game as well, which was nice to see. Hit the ball to the opposite field. I mean, it was his first RBI since May 11th, which was, funny enough, the Orioles' most recent win. Again, as Adley goes, the Orioles go. And it is really true. It's really true. And if maybe this home run, maybe this big, huge swing to put this game away, monkey off their back, congratulations, Tony Mansolino, Orioles interim manager, gets his first win as a big league skipper. Maybe all of that can, I don't know if it's going to fully get the Orioles going. Again, maybe too big of a hole to dig out of. I think too big of a hole. But can it at least get Adley going and get him back to the hitter that we've seen a lot of and we know that he can be? But either way, oh man, it feels so much better to win than lose. I covered this team and did a podcast throughout that 19-game losing streak back in 2021. Luckily, we didn't even get halfway there this year, but an 8-game losing streak on a team that was supposed to be good is certainly rough. Love to see a win. Let's turn it into a winning streak as the Orioles head to Boston tonight. But the Orioles are getting healthier too. That is the other part of this. If they're going to have any chance of digging out of this hole, they got to get healthier. It continued on Wednesday. They got one of their key free agent pickups back into the lineup, or really into the lineup for the first time. We'll talk about Andrew Kitridge coming up after this. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And do you need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. So the Orioles finally got a win on Wednesday, and that was great. What was also great is they got a player back from the injured list. Andrew Kitridge was activated off the injured list and placed on the Orioles active roster for the first time this season before Wednesday's game. Chase McDermott, who had pitched in bulk for the Orioles on Tuesday, was optioned down to AAA Norfolk to make room on the roster for Kitridge. Now, if you don't remember, because it's been a while, who is Andrew Kitridge? Well, we saw him on Wednesday, comes into the game in the 7th with the Orioles trailing 2-1. Very quick and easy 1-2-3 inning, 8 pitches, 6 sliders, 2 sinkers, boom, 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 and we're out of there. We're keeping it a 2-1 game. That is what you love to see on the season and Orioles debut from the veteran righty Andrew Kitridge. But who is he? Because he hasn't pitched for the Orioles yet. He's a 35-year-old right-handed reliever who signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Orioles this offseason. They tried to sign Jeff Hoffman. They didn't like the medicals. They pivoted to a smaller deal. Hoffman rejected it, signed with the Blue Jays. And then the Orioles' kind of next option up was a couple days later, they signed Kitridge to this 1-year deal to get a trusted veteran into this bullpen. And that is exactly what he is. He's been mostly a setup man throughout his career, and he was an all-star with the Rays back in 2021, had a great, basically 7 years, 2017 to 2023 with Tampa Bay, ended up on the Cardinals last year and was really just as good. He threw 70 2/3 innings for St. Louis as really the main setup man for their closer, Ryan Helsley, last year. He posted a 2.80 ERA, 23% strikeout rate, 7% walk rate. His 38.9% chase rate that he forced was the highest among all pitchers in Major League Baseball last year. He throws his slider almost 50% of the time. Last season, opponents hit just 177 against it with a 41% whiff rate. Then he mixes in a couple of different fastballs, a sinker to righties, a four-seam fastball to lefties. They sit, 93-ish, 94-ish from the right side. Then he has a little bit of a cutter he uses, and then he used to throw kind of a changeup / splitter, but he hadn't thrown it since 2021, the All-Star season with the Rays. And when the Orioles signed him, I took a look at his numbers, and really the last 2 years, especially last year, he had been really struggling more than ever against left-handed hitters. And the cutter was kind of his main weapon against left-handed hitters. He even threw the slider against it because it's just his best pitch by far. But it's much more effective, that slider is, against righties. And it was clear after his struggles against lefties last year, he needed a better pitch than the cutter to neutralize lefties. And I said, you can go back and listen to the episode when the Orioles signed Kitridge, I said that changeup that he used to throw in the late 2010s and early 2020s with Tampa Bay, he should bring that pitch back. It did a pretty solid job of neutralizing lefties last year. I think he just kind of lost the feel for it the last couple of seasons and it went out of his arsenal. He should bring it back. Well, Kitridge, who was not on with the team because he got kind of a knee clean out surgery after just one spring training outing. And the Orioles said he'd miss, 6 weeks to 2 months. Actually, he was always kind of ahead of his rehab schedule, came back actually a little bit quicker to be activated on May 21st than the Orioles thought when he got that procedure in spring training. But he made 6 rehab appearances, 1 in Aberdeen, and then the final 5 were in AAA Norfolk. And in those 5 Norfolk appearances, 5 scoreless innings, 4 hits, 4 Ks, and 2 walks. His fastballs were 93, a little bit down from his usual 94, but nothing to be concerned about in a rehab outing. That extra mile per hour usually comes from the adrenaline of pitching in a big league game, not on rehab in a AAA game. But the interesting thing was on rehab is he didn't throw a lot of pitches because, again, it's just 5 innings, but he threw 4 splitters and did not throw any cutters at all. And when you're on rehab, one of the biggest things to make sure of is you're throwing all of the pitches you plan to use when you get to the big leagues so that you get a good feel for them before you get out of the big league mound. And the fact that he threw 4 splitters, a pitch he hasn't thrown in 4 years, and he didn't throw any cutters tells me that the Orioles, I'm not going to say took my advice, they probably thought of it on their own because they've got some smart people in that front office, but said, hey, let's bring back that changeup. It's going to be better against lefties. Now, he didn't throw it. No, he only threw 8 pitches on Wednesday, but I'm intrigued to see what that looks like if he really does start to throw that again. And as I said, Chase McDermott was optioned to AAA after basically, I mean, it was 1 start, 1 relief appearance, but basically 2 starts, turns around in the rotation up here with the Orioles. What that does say is that McDermott will not be full-time replacing Kyle Gibson's rotation spot after Gibson was DFA'd on Sunday after 4 just truly, I mean, I love Kyle Gibson, but 4 miserable starts with the Orioles this year, and that left an open spot in the Oriole rotation. And I mentioned how I would want it to stick with Chase McDermott, and he was up and down in that outing on Tuesday night, but I thought he's the Orioles' number 1 pitching prospect. Let's keep getting him these looks. But I also mentioned that, hey, Charlie Morton's been looking worlds better in relief the last couple of outings. He, of course, was signed to be a part of this rotation. He could get that spot as well. And that is what is going to happen. So McDermott has to stay down for at least 15 days until he returns, unless someone goes on the IL. He gave up 7 runs, 7 Ks, 8 walks, a hit batter, 3 homers, 8 hits in 7 2/3 innings in his 2 outings. And Charlie Morton's going to rejoin the rotation. He was named as the probable starter for Saturday's game in Boston, so he is back in the rotation. He's been great in his last 3 long relief appearances, 9 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 12 Ks to 2 walks. Even the velocity on the fastball has been up a little bit. Now, I still would rather have Chase McDermott, and honestly would rather have Trevor Rogers up here and getting a chance to start again, just to see what the Orioles have in those guys for their future. But Morton has earned it somewhat. He's kind of here for it. I would rather have McDermott in there, but they're going to go with Morton. He's going to get another chance, and we'll see how it goes for Charlie back in the rotation. But Andrew Kitridge wasn't the only positive injury news from Wednesday. We got a couple of positive updates from some Orioles outfielders. We'll talk about that to finish up the show coming up next. So the Orioles did have a bit of a scare in Tuesday night's game, besides the fact, I should say, that they lost the game, is that Raone Laureano, who's been one of their hottest hitters recently, he was 11 for 19 in his last 5 games coming into Tuesday's game. He had like a 150 WRC plus in the previous month, was swinging the bat super well, was hitting 4th in the order a lot of times. He went down. He tripped awkwardly trying to catch a fly ball in right field on Tuesday, stayed in the game for an extra inning, and then came out of there. It was with an ankle injury, and the concern was that it was going to be something gnarly where he was going to have to miss a lot of time. Well, luckily, we got a positive update from Tony Mansolino on Wednesday before the game. Laureano will miss a couple of days, but it's nothing serious. At this point, they don't even think he's going to have to go on the injured list at all. He'll be out for a few days, and then hopefully at some point later this weekend against Boston, Laureano will be able to come back, and he's kind of been like the Orioles' 3rd or 4th best hitter at times here, so it'll be nice to have him back into that lineup. Mostly Dylan Carlson will start in the outfield until he's back. Carlson started in right field and batted 9th on Wednesday, replacing Laureano. They could also throw Ryan O'Hearn out there. He ended the game in right field when the Orioles made some pinch hitting and defensive replacements. But your main outfielders are now Heston Kjerstad, Cedric Mullins, and Dylan Carlson for a couple of days. And then you have guys like O'Hearn and I guess Jorge Mateo on the roster who you could theoretically use in the outfield if you needed to as well. My guess would be that, let's say Laureano misses Thursday and Friday and he's back Saturday. My guess would be Carlson starts one more game in the outfield, and then O'Hearn starts one of those games in the outfield where maybe you play Mountcastle at first base, and that's the game where Maverick Handley catches and Adley fills up the DH spot, and you put O'Hearn in the outfield. That would be my guess if it is 2 more games for Laureano, and then he comes back on Saturday. It means no IL trip, so no chance for a guy like Dylan Beavers to potentially be called up from AAA while Laureano is out. He's been swinging it pretty well down there in Norfolk, and a guy who should get potentially a chance at some point this year. But then the other big outfielder the O's have been missing all year is Colton Cowser. Broke his thumb diving headfirst into first base in Toronto in the 4th game of the season. He's been out since then. He's currently on the 60-day injured list. He would be eligible to return next Friday, that is May 30th, from the IL. And at least things are progressing forward. Now, the Orioles announced Tuesday that Colton Cowser would begin his rehab assignment in High A Aberdeen on Wednesday. He was taking live BP. He was hitting and throwing on the field and doing outfield drills. It was all good stuff. The bad thing was the rain came through the area, as many of you know. On Wednesday, Aberdeen's game was postponed on Wednesday night, so Colton Cowser's beginning his rehab stint is going to have to wait until here on Thursday. Hopefully Aberdeen does play a game on Thursday and Cowser can get out there. Now, he's been out for almost 2 months at this point, so it's not going to be a situation where, you know, he plays the weekend in Aberdeen and then on Monday he's ready to rejoin the Orioles. It's going to take a little bit longer than that. Again, it has to take until at least next Friday. That's when he's eligible to come off the 60-day IL. So my guess would be it's about a 2-week-long rehab assignment. And then I would target something like June 1st, right around June 1st for Colton Cowser to rejoin this Orioles lineup. It's going to be great to have one of those main middle-of-the-order bats in there for Cowser, who did have an up-and-down season last year, but finished second, and we all agree should have won AL Rookie of the Year award. It'll be great. Just haven't had him all year. It'll be great to have him back in that lineup. It'll be interesting to see what the Orioles do when he comes back. I mean, he's going to be pretty much an everyday player in this lineup when he returns, so that cuts into Raone Laureano and Heston Kjerstad's playing time when Cowser does come back, and maybe even into a little of Cedric Mullins. But Mullins at this point has shown enough. He's even against lefty. He's got to be in there every day until if he does start to kind of tank it with the bat again. Now, if Tyler O'Neill is still out when Cowser comes back, well, you option Dylan Carlson down to AAA, and then Cowser, Laureano, and Kjerstad. Really, it's Cowser and Mullins out there every day, and Laureano and Kjerstad rotate through in the final outfield spot. Once Tyler O'Neill comes back, because remember, he's currently on the injured list with a shoulder issue. Once he comes back and Cowser's back, that's when you have Carlson in AAA, and then you're kind of making a decision. Do you DFA Jorge Mateo at that point? You're probably not getting rid of Laureano because he's been so good. That is where Heston Kjerstad's roster spot comes into play. He has minor league options. He's been, let's be honest, even with the big hit he had Wednesday, he has been really, really bad offensively, and he's kind of a disaster defensively in the outfield too. I don't know how many more resets he needs. He's gotten like 3 of them, it seems like, over the past couple of years since he debuted in September of 2023. But if Cowser's going to be back, if Laureano's going to be hitting, if O'Neill's going to be healthy, if Mullins is going to be hitting, even hitting lefties, there is a chance that when Cowser and O'Neill return, Heston Kjerstad could see himself optioned to AAA Norfolk. It wouldn't be the greatest outcome, but again, if he's just not doing anything at all, I'd rather it be a Jorge Mateo DFA, absolutely. But the Kjerstad option certainly would be a possibility. But I still think a net positive that Colton Cowser is beginning a rehab assignment, and hopefully in a couple of weeks will be a huge guy to get back into this Oriole lineup. That'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Orioles avoid the sweep, and they end the 8-game losing streak. Now they turn it over to Fenway Park for the first time this year. They will go to Fenway for a 4-game series beginning tonight on MASN, a 6:45 p.m. Eastern time start. Cade Povich will get the ball for the Orioles, the left-hander coming off a really good start against the Nats when he allowed 2 runs in 5 2/3 and struck out a season-high 9 batters. The Red Sox will send the veteran right-hander Lucas Giolito to the mound. Missed basically all of last year with Tommy John surgery. He comes back, hasn't been very good since returning. 4 starts, he's got a 7.08 ERA. His last time out against Atlanta, he gave up 6 runs on 8 hits over 4 innings. Hopefully the Orioles can jump on Giolito tonight like other teams have done. And then I will be back with you tomorrow for a Friday pod, one more episode this week, recapping game 1 between the Orioles and the Red Sox, and I will get you ready for the final 3 games of the O's-Sox series at Fenway Park. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.